So this begs the question, is it morally right to own a Tesla today? Should I sell mine? I just am not really like an Elon fan anymore. Hi guys, welcome back to Step by Step with me, Shelby Church. Today we are really doing a different kind of episode. I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on Elon Musk, why people are selling their Teslas, and if I plan to sell mine, because I have gotten questions about that. And this is really not a typical episode for me. I really am trying to keep this podcast about improving your life, just things that I'm learning, interviewing people who are successful, stuff like that. But I do think this is an important topic to dive into because a lot of people are asking me about it. I don't really feel like I want to make a whole main channel video about it. And I mean, for a while I was like, who am I to talk about this? But I've been a big supporter of Tesla over the years, and I've encouraged over 600 people to buy Teslas. So I do kind of feel some responsibility to talk about it and sort of discuss like what I think about this whole thing. And yeah, I really hope that you can listen with an open mind. Obviously, this is going to get a little political because Elon is in the political sphere now. There's no getting around that. Personally, I listen to both kinds of media, like more liberal and more right wing, because I just think it's interesting. I'm trying to understand both sides always. Like, I don't always agree with it from both sides, honestly, but more so with the right wing I don't agree with mainly. But I want to know like what people are actually thinking. I don't want to be in my own echo chamber. So I'm hoping you can listen even if you don't agree with my points. I'm going to talk more objectively about why I think Elon's doing what he's doing based on what I've learned about him. And then a little more about what I think of it and how I feel about it. If I would like sell my Tesla, would I buy one today still? That whole thing. I know it can be a touchy subject, but I would love for it to be a discussion. Like, if you disagree with me, you're totally free to comment what your thoughts are. Like, I'm fine with reading it because as we get more information, I'm open to my thoughts evolving as well. I do think I just want to say this first too. I think a lot of where people on the right and left argue about things, some things people are just never going to agree on, like abortion, for example. Like, you're just not changing my mind on that. But I think there are other things like the economic policy where at the end of the day, both sides want the same thing. For the most part, I feel like most average Americans, whether they consider themselves Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or whatever, most of them want less of a crazy wealth gap. I think that's what I want. I think a lot of people do acknowledge that a stronger middle class is better, and we've really moved away from that. Maybe some people just don't agree with that. I'm not sure. The rich are getting richer. The income inequality is really insane. Like, the top 0.01% have so much of the money, and kind of, so if you're watching the video, you can see in this graph, and if you're not watching the video, I'll explain it. It's basically showing the average incomes for the richest Americans and how it has skyrocketed. If you look back in 1980, 1985, the top 1% and the top 0.01%, they had more money than the bottom 20%, but not that much more. Compared to today, it is just exponentially more. And this graph really shows it too. The richest 1% make 139 times as much as the bottom 20%. That's crazy. Even the top 20% can't even touch the top 1%. Top 20% is $418,000 in income, I'm assuming, per year, whereas the top 1% is $3 million. So a lot more, like more than double, which is crazy. I feel like what we see happen is the people who are making $20 an hour are mad at the person making $100 an hour, but not the person making $1 million an hour who is really causing the problems. That's kind of what we're seeing people on the right and left fight about when it comes to the economic part of it, because it does affect all of us. It's like the egg prices and whatever. Like, everyone wants the egg prices to be lower, but both sides are arguing about it and like thinking the other one is wrong when we all kind of want the same thing for the most part. And I've been actually listening to a lot of YouTube videos about it by a YouTube channel, Gary Stevenson. I would recommend you guys go check it out if you're interested. It is basically an ex-Citibank trader. He made a lot of money as a trader for this investment bank, and then he left it all, and now he's talking about basically income inequality in the UK, and it's the same thing happening in America, and how the quality of living is going down for the average American, and same thing with the UK and most places. It's gone up for the top 0.01%, which, by the way, I feel like people get confused on this. Like, they think that they are like in that group. I'm pretty sure you're not in that group if you have less than $10 million. It's probably even more than that. But yeah, even people who have $1 million these days, you know, look at what $1 million house gets you. Not great in a lot of cities. Like, even that net worth, I don't think it would be considered middle class, but it's not what it used to be. That's for sure. It's about half, maybe a third of what it used to be. Like, $1 million is a new like 400,000. It's still a lot of money, but it's not how before it was like, wow, you are gonna buy an amazing house in any city kind of thing, right? So let's get on with it. Let's talk about Elon Musk and what he's doing. And it's interesting because 5 years ago when I first got a Tesla, everyone viewed him so differently. He was like the real life Iron Man, like saving the world. Like, people loved him. I feel like people forget this now, but like, they did. He was really all about the environment, and not just Teslas, but also Solar City. That's what it was. Before it was Tesla Solar. That company, you know, the mission was really like clean energy. And I feel like a lot of people got on board with that. I got on board with it. I was like, yeah, this is great. Like, it's more economical. It was expensive at the time. Now I think Teslas are a little cheaper. But I thought it was really cool to have an electric car. It was kind of like the best thing we've gotten since an iPhone, I would say. Like, when I got in a Tesla, I was like, this is literally like driving an iPhone. It's crazy. It's such a good product. It works so well. I just loved it. That's why I made so many videos about it. But now, obviously, people don't view him the same. A lot of that started to happen when he bought Twitter and was starting to get more outspoken about the election and everything. And I think it kind of begs the question, like, why does Elon Musk get involved in politics? Why is he doing what he's doing? And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but this is my theory. Okay, but before we get into it, I wanted to quickly thank one of the sponsors of the podcast, Cure Hydration. If you guys aren't familiar with Cure Hydration, it's an electrolyte drink mix. And what I really like about it is they don't have any added sugar or artificial sweeteners. So you're not going to get that fake sugar taste, and they use clean ingredients. They use things like pink Himalayan salt and coconut water powder, just a cleaner way to hydrate. And when it comes to staying hydrated, it really is more than just drinking water. I mean, I've found when I go to play tennis, and if it's like a hot day, I'm playing in the middle of the day, I will be so fatigued after, even if I was just drinking normal water the whole time, because I need those electrolytes. If you are not replenishing your electrolytes too, like, you'll kind of get that fatigue, that brain fog. You know, I feel like we've all felt it. In the summer when I'm in Palm Springs, like, you don't even have to be working out. Like, I need to be drinking this just to stay like normal. So with the Cure electrolyte drink mix, there's only 25 calories in each packet, so very low calorie, again, because there isn't any added sugar, and it's doctor approved and safe for the whole family, so adults and kids can use Cure. So they have a bunch of different flavors. They got like watermelon, lemonade I feel like is a classic. There's strawberry, kiwi, berry, pomegranate, really something for everyone. They found that 75% of Americans don't drink enough water or have enough electrolytes, and this is when you get those symptoms like fatigue, headaches, dry skin. I notice for myself, my lips get really dry. When I stay hydrated, my lips are just like naturally a little more plump, so it's like more motivation I've had to actually drink water. They actually followed a formula that was developed by the World Health Organization to be as effective as an actual IV drip. So they're not messing around here. We're really getting rehydrated. And for step-by-step listeners, Cure is offering 20% off your first order. You can get that by going to curehydration.com/Shelby and entering the promo code Shelby. Again, it's curehydration.com/Shelby. I'll put the link in the show notes as well if you want to just click on the link. And let's get back into the podcast. This is my theory. All of these things that he's started, all these companies, they're getting to the point where he needs government approval to move them forward. Think about it with SpaceX, obviously launching a rocket into the sky. He's got to get the government on board with that. Self-driving cars, that's really hard if you aren't able to test it. There's a lot of red tape there. Even Neuralink, I could see how in the future, if you're not familiar with Neuralink, it's this company where they put chips into people's brains. But it sounds creepy. It sounds very Black Mirror, but they're able to do some cool stuff with it from what I've seen. Like, for people who are paralyzed or blind, the idea would be that they can find a way to regenerate whatever the injury is in a way that they can live a more independent independent and productive life, which I think is so cool. Again, are they allowed to just put those in a human? I don't really know. They may have to get some kind of permission. Obviously, it's going to be like people who volunteer. Anyway, that's kind of besides the point, but that's why I think he's doing what he's doing. He needs government permission to move these things forward. Even if you guys remember Hyperloop, that it would be like an underground tunnel. I forget if it was a train or what, but he wanted to make that in LA and Vegas, and I think he did make a small one in Vegas, but like he's not able to get anywhere with these things because he gets caught up in all of the red tape, all the government, all that bureaucracy, basically. For better or for worse, I mean, there's a reason those things are in place. There's a reason that we have zoning and stuff. A lot of people think that Elon is motivated by money, and I really don't think so. I really think he is just like a different personality type, a different type of brain who is motivated by basically keeping humanity going and the advancement of humanity. He's even said basically his end goal, this was quoted somewhere, is to replace the human workforce with machines. Again, something that at first blush kind of sounds Black Mirror-y, and like then, oh, they're coming for our jobs. But I think in the best case scenario, that could be a good thing where people don't have to do physical labor, like contractor type work, driving, things that are mundane and physically difficult. And if we can outsource that, that would be amazing. Like, think about if we had unlimited not human labor, if we had unlimited basically labor from robots. If you think about that, like home building would be faster. They could just, build 24/7, literally. Like all these things could be done. Like society could be so productive, but also it could go wrong too if it's not in the right hands. Like one person owns literally everything. But yeah, I guess my whole point with that was that I don't think he's motivated by money, because he even sold all his houses. I don't think he's like living this hedonistic billionaire lifestyle like all of the other billionaires. I'm pretty sure he like sleeps in the offices of these places. It doesn't not seem glamorous. Like I don't think he's be on a yacht all day, like, so when people say, oh, he's just like wants more money, I don't know if that's even it. I think he really is motivated by basically these innovations and advancing things forward. And I think that's how he kind of got started with getting involved with the political side. Although now it's kind of different. It's like kind of like meddling with other things now. One thing that I wondered was, why didn't Elon align with the Democratic Party? Isn't it weird? Because they are traditionally more environmentally friendly. I mean, it didn't take long, like the first few days of the Trump administration, right? They withdrew from the Paris Agreement, which is like a big, basically like climate pledge. Seems like Elon naturally would have been better aligned with the Democratic Party. But I don't know if a lot of you guys saw this. If you follow EV stuff, then you know this. But there was this EV summit hosted by the Biden administration, and they didn't invite Tesla. They didn't invite Elon. They didn't invite literally the biggest EV manufacturer in the world. I don't know if that's like where that started. Obviously they had some contention. I don't know what it was exactly, but that was a good indicator that they didn't really get along. And I thought that was weird. Like, why wouldn't they invite the biggest EV manufacturer? It doesn't really make any sense. Sometimes I wonder, this is just me like guessing, but what if like the Democratic Party wasn't willing to give Elon as much power as he wanted? It seemed like he knew he could get more power from the Republican side. At least that's what it looks like right now. I mean, who really knows? But like even like these photos where he's in the office with Trump, it's like it looks like he's the president. It looks like Trump. No, it's crazy. I don't know like if Elon even necessarily like agrees with all those ideologies of the Republican side of things, but I think he just identified that he could get more power there, and the Democratic Party, they weren't going to give that to him. I mean, they didn't even invite him to the EV summit. Like they were not going to play nice. Basically, that is why I think he does what he does. I have mixed feelings because I do think, and it's not popular these days to say anything good about Elon, and I'll get into the things I don't like too, but I do think he has done good when it comes to the electric car movement and solar. Like this is where I really get the mixed feelings is I love my Tesla. Like I do love the car. I gotta be honest. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you guys and be like, I don't like it anymore. I still think it's a great car. The technology is so good. When there's like nothing, it doesn't not work. It's like an iPhone where things just work, you know, like a MacBook to a PC, like where a PC you get like a weird computer virus and you have to be like command option escape and it just doesn't work anymore. Whereas the MacBook, you don't get a virus. Like they just don't get that. That's how it feels to have a Tesla. It's just like everything works. You don't have to get an oil change. Like it's just a good car. And that's where I'm like, oh God, why do you have to go and make his reputation like this? Because now it's like, it's not that it's really embarrassing to own a Tesla, but it's definitely not cool anymore, at least in the West Coast. I know it's probably different everywhere, and like this is just my experience with it. And my echo chamber that I'm in is people are like, ooh, you have a Tesla, it's not how it was before, where it was really cool and like it seemed like a luxury thing. But over time the luxury aspect was going away too, because it got more common. That wasn't necessarily about Elon being political. Quick break to thank Rocket Money for sponsoring this podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with Rocket Money, it's a personal finance app. They're known for helping you lower your bills, cancel unwanted subscriptions. They can help you set a budget. They can help you save. It's kind of like an all-in-one place to make your finances better. I really like using it for the unwanted subscriptions. Basically, they will show you what you're paying for, so you can see different things that you might have forgotten about, like streaming services. You sign up for a trial, you forgot. They make it easy to cancel. Like you can just cancel in a few taps. They can also help you lower your bills by automatically seeing where you can save. So they'll check, your phone bill, your internet bill, and see if you can save on that. You actually don't have to make the phone call or do any of the customer service stuff. Rocket Money's negotiators will go to work for you to do that. Rocket Money's helped save customers up to $740 a year when they use all the app's features. And in total, they've saved customers over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. So a streaming service hates to see them coming. Rocket Money, by the way, has a bunch of free features, so you can try it for free. There is a paid version too that's a little more robust. It's got even more features. If you want to get serious about saving more and spending less and join the already 5 million people who use Rocket Money, again, just go to rocketmoney.com/Shelby and you can get started for free. Or if you want to unlock the more premium features, you can also go to rocketmoney.com/Shelby. Okay, thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring, and let's get back to the podcast. So really where I have more concerns is the fact that there are billionaires that are involved in politics to begin with. Because anytime there's money involved, whether it's lobbying or billionaires who literally have a position in the government, I feel like that is a conflict of interest. Obviously they have a lot of power. They're going to do what's going to benefit them, not necessarily the average person. So we've seen with Elon so far, he's given himself, I don't know if it's necessarily him giving it to himself. I'm not sure how it works like logistically, but since the Trump administration, he's gotten a lot of different government contracts. According to fortune.com, Elon has received over $20 billion of government contracts over the past 15 years. The one thing I do want to note, and again, this is where there's like nuance to things and people see this, that he's giving himself these contracts. Listen, he might actually be the best option for it, because when you look at Starlink and when they have put that in different places, it actually is more efficient than running a bunch of 5G poles, like setting up that whole thing. I'm not even sure how that exactly works, but like Starlink is an efficient and economical way to get internet more places, basically. And I think a lot of the things Elon does, it is efficient, it is economical. Even like the cyber trucks as maybe police cars, like I can see why they would want to do that. It is a good vehicle. At the same time though, I do kind of wonder with these government contracts, like who's deciding who gets it? Like, is he just like, okay, I'm gonna have it? Because that just doesn't really seem right. It's a conflict of interest. Yeah, he might be the best person to get that bid, but I still think there should be someone who's picking objectively, not the person who's picking. Like that just, it doesn't really seem fair. And it was going around that he got a $400 million government contract with Tesla to provide Cybertrucks for the government. But apparently the State Department said they're abandoning these plans. So that government contract, I guess, is not going to be fulfilled. Another thing, obviously, that I did not like that he did was help Trump win the presidency. I mean, in America, they're not each individual is not supposed to be allowed to donate millions of dollars to a candidate. That's why they're in those PACs or super PACs. They're supposed to limit that so that not one person has all this influence and everyone's vote counts. Obviously, he donated a ton of money to try and get Trump president, and it worked. And one thing that he did was kind of ran this like lottery where if you registered to vote, or if you got a friend to register to vote, you had a chance of winning $1 million. I'm not sure if he was able to be like, oh, you have to register to vote Republican. I don't think you're allowed to do that, but it was only in swing states. He was targeting these certain areas. Like, it was definitely, he put a lot of money into trying to get him to become president, which like one single person isn't supposed to have that much influence. It's supposed to be what the general public wants, what's good for everyone, not what's good for this one billionaire. So that was concerning. It kind of felt like he's just taking over like with his money. Like, he has so much power that he's able to like decide who's president almost. Like, obviously he's not fully the one who's deciding, but when you have that much money, it certainly helps. Another thing that I have not loved is what he's done with Twitter. He's really taken it over, and the whole idea was he felt like Twitter had too much censorship, and so he wanted to eliminate that and have people be able to post whatever they want, which, okay, like free speech, sure. But since taking over it, it's changed a lot. And he actually does censor things, people have found, and he boosts his own posts. And it's really weird. I feel like my algorithm on X is like so interesting. It is way more right-wing stuff than any other platform that I see, because most of the algorithms are going to cater to like what you like actually resonate with, what you like, what, you know, it kind of becomes your echo chamber of what you believe. But not on X. It shows me like sometimes outlandish takes. Like, think that Twitter or X now, it's just become kind of different. And honestly though, maybe that is what is just mainstream, and I'm just really in an echo chamber of my own algorithm on the other platforms. I don't know, it's just kind of interesting to see. But sometimes I feel like they're trying to like push it on you more, like push more on you these ideologies you don't agree with. Maybe not though, because when I go on, I do see both. It's not like I only see like really right-wing stuff, you know? So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, really my biggest gripe is the way that he helped Trump become president. I feel like whether you voted for Trump or not, probably like, can't you agree like one person having that much influence is kind of crazy? It is. I'm not going to get like too much into why I didn't want Trump to be president, because I feel like it's kind of obvious. I mean, the main thing is I feel like they're increasing the economic inequality so much more just with the tax policy, and it's more basically tax cuts for the ultra rich, allowing these billionaires to have more power. It's becoming like an oligarchy. That is kind of what I'm seeing. I mean, hopefully it's not as bad as I'm thinking it is, but that is sure what it seems like. Now, I will say there's been a lot of talk about the government spending and US aid, and that, as I've looked into it more, I'm just confused by. So they basically, what a lot of people are saying is they have to find tax cuts somewhere to be able to give Elon and all these people more tax breaks. You know, with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017, there were all these tax breaks. Everyone got a little tax break, but corporations got the biggest tax break. Everyone else's tax breaks expired, but the corporate one didn't, which is, you know, who owns corporations? The top 1%. Duh. So that is why I don't love that. It's like the tax policy, and that is obviously benefiting the top 1%, allowing them to get more of the resources, make things more expensive, squeeze the middle class. It just is making the quality of life worse overall for the average American, I think. That is kind of what I see and what I believe, and that's why I didn't vote for him. But I mean, there's other reasons too, but I feel like that's one that affects everyone. The other ones, I think people might not agree with my take on things, and so I'm not going to get into it because there's just no changing someone's opinion on some of these topics. But I think the economic one, that's where people can see the actual results of what's happening and how maybe the policies that they say are going to benefit them actually don't. So anyway, back to the US aid thing And back to government efficiency. Of course, efficiency sounds great. Not spending money on things that we don't need to, that sounds great. But some of it, I'm like, wait, I think we probably should spend money on that. Like National Park Service, I'm like, if you just don't have anyone there, what is going to happen? US aid, a lot of that was the US aiding different countries, right? And so they found a lot of money being spent to help different countries. To be honest, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Hot take. Helping people, not the worst thing in the world. My opinion. I do see though, just compared to like war, for example, and spending money on that, on destruction, I think that US aid is not the worst thing. But I can see how people could be angry that their tax dollars are going to other countries when there's a lot of issues here. You know, there are cities that don't have clean water. There is not affordable housing like in most major cities. So that's a whole different topic I could get into. Obviously, there's like a opioid epidemic. There's a lot of issues, even ones that aren't even as big of a deal. It's like we could spend the money on a public rail system here. That would be really cool and more energy efficient. I don't know. So, but what I'm saying is I get it. I can see why some people looked at that and were like, why is all that money going elsewhere when it's our tax dollars? I get it. I do. At the same time, I don't know if all of it was wasted. Some of it probably went to help people. I have seen some things that are kind of like crazy and you have to check your sources. I'm like, okay, as I look into it, this didn't actually go where they're saying. I saw one thing though, and I did fact check it on factcheck.org. They spent $70,000 on a musical in Ireland. I mean, that is one of those things where you're like, it's just not necessary. Whether they spent it on a musical here in the US or Ireland, it doesn't really matter. Like spending the money on a musical when there is just bigger issues. I think that is the thing. I don't have anything against like that those other countries. Is just because there are problems here too. I feel like that's why people get frustrated with that. But a lot of people are making the argument that these US aid budget cuts are just so that they can give these billionaires their tax breaks, and the US aid budget cuts are like nothing in compared to the defense budget. No, I don't really know. I'm not a total expert on that, but I can kind of see both sides of how there certainly has been government waste, and there probably always will be. But some of it is being cut that I think is still necessary. So don't love that. And like there are people saying they're going to come for like Social Security and Medicaid. I mean, who knows? That's kind of what people are saying. And what do you guys think? If they got rid of Social Security, what would you think of that? I don't know. It doesn't affect me as much because I'm kind of not banking on Social Security to be around by the time I'm that age. I pay into it, but I kind of don't think it's going to be around then. That is why I just am not really like an Elon fan anymore. All of that, I think, even just his personal life, which, you know, you can do whatever in your personal life, you can, but I think it's strange he has 13 kids with 4 different women. I think it's weird, and I don't like that. I feel like if there was like some woman in the government who had 4 kids with different men, like the double standard, can you imagine? They would rip her to shreds. It would be insane. And so I feel like it's just kind of gross. I do, like, sorry, but that's my take on that. And like, sure, you can do whatever you want in your personal life, but like, I just, to me, is like kind of sad, because does he have enough time to be with all those kids? Like, to have for anyone to have 13 kids, like, not to be judgy, but like, how can you spend enough time with each one? Like, I almost feel like it's not fair to them. Anyway, this is getting up on a different topic, but I just feel like it's what he's doing that affects us directly, but it's also kind of like who he is as a person. I'm like, so that is why I'm not really like an Elon fan anymore, when back in the day, you know, I was like back when I first bought a Tesla. So this begs the question, is it morally right to own a Tesla today? Should I sell mine? I've seen people do it. Sheryl Crow just sold hers. She posted a short form video about it on like TikTok or something. So this is my thoughts. I don't think it makes sense if you already bought a Tesla to sell it. Don't go and buy a new car just for this reason. That's just incredibly wasteful, in my opinion. If you're buying a brand new car, I mean, maybe a used one, because it's not exactly like causing more demand and more product creation. But if you're going and buying a brand new car and using more resources like that, I just think that's pretty wasteful. Like, if you're in the market for a new car anyway and you were gonna get one, then maybe. But I would have a very hard time parting ways with mine. I'm not gonna lie. And it's just the technology of it, the autopilot and everything. It's just, it's really good. It would be like not having an iPhone anymore. And like, could I do it? I'm sure, but it would be a worse quality of life. Like, I'm just going to be real. That's how I feel about it. So I don't want to get rid of mine, and I don't plan to, because I don't think that would even help anyone. It's not like if you get rid of a Tesla, you get refunded from them. You know, if you have an order and you want to cancel it, maybe, and buy a different car. Because the truth is, there are other companies that are catching up in terms of autonomous driving. Obviously, Waymo, but you can't buy those. I will say the General Motors cars, like the Hummer, the I believe Chevy, all of them have Super Cruise, which is pretty similar to basic autopilot. It's like pretty good. You can use it on the freeway. So that's probably what I would do if I didn't have a Tesla. I would get something that has some autonomous driving, because that's why I keep it. That is like the only reason. It's because the autonomous driving features make it easier and safer to drive for me. So I don't know if I had never bought one back in 2019, if I would buy one today, though. I don't know if I would. It's just different now, you know? I still think it's a great car, though, and I don't really judge people if they buy one, because in my opinion, it's like, the damage is already done. Like, once somebody has that much money, he's the richest man in the world. If everyone today just stopped buying Teslas, he would still have enough money to still have all this power. So that's where I'm like, I feel like we got bait and switched a little bit. Like, we thought it was like this guy who was gonna save the world, and I don't know, you know, not necessarily. It's not like he's destroying the world, but I feel like who he portrayed himself to be as Tesla was growing is sort of different than who we're seeing now. Maybe that's who he was all along. He just like didn't show it for a long time. Don't know. But yeah, when it comes to, am I going to sell it? No, I just don't think it makes sense to. I think that would be wasteful if I was buying a new car. I think I just still like the car, honestly. And if it was just an okay car, I would have gotten rid of it. I would have been like, yeah, F this. But I do actually find it to be quite useful, and I'm not gonna get rid of it, because, you know, maybe if you sold it and you got your money back from Elon himself, I'd consider that. But that's not how the world works, is it? I think continuing to own mine, it's not like it's giving him any more money. I don't think, like, at all. Because I don't even really supercharge mine. If anything, I have free credits. If anything, I'm still taking money because I have referred people and I can get like free stuff from it. So I might as well like get that from them. It's taking from him a little. Yeah, that is my thoughts on it. But I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? Are you like all about it? Are you pro Elon? Because I do see the sides of it where he is very innovative and like coming up with these things that are actually really great products. But on the other side, it's getting a little weird in the political sphere, and I don't really like that. I don't like these billionaires getting involved, and just not even him, but like any billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, any of them being involved in the government, I don't think is right. Like, to me, it's kind of like how members of Congress insider trade, like, let's call a spade, like what Nancy Pelosi does is insider trading. Like, it's crazy that they're just allowed to do that. If you're not familiar, basically they found that Nancy Pelosi and a lot of different members of Congress, they just happen to make these incredible trades, get the best returns based on information they obviously get from the government. It's so crazy. I don't think that like members of Congress or any of that, I don't think they should be able to trade individual stocks. Like index funds, yes, they should be allowed to invest, but like doing what they're doing, like options trading, where they're just obviously basically insider trading, to me, these billionaires being involved in the government is the same kind of thing, where they're getting this unfair advantage that no one else is going to get, and it's going to make it harder for anyone else, any business, to ever compete with Tesla, for example, or like just a few companies, a few people, a few families owning everything and everyone else fighting for the scraps. That is really why I am anti that. And I think, I don't know, like how can you, I just don't know how you could not agree. Like, that's not a great world to live in. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening. Comment down below what you think. Do you totally disagree with me? Like, I'm open to hearing it. And like, I hope I'm not offending anyone. I think we all need to be a little more open to hearing different opinions, because people are just a little too closed off to it. And it's like, I'm not offended if I hear someone else has a different belief.